Hey everyone, I'm Princess Link, and welcome back to Metal Gear Solid 4. I got my first COVID shot yesterday, and my arm hurt so bad that I couldn't fall asleep. Anyway, Chapter 5. For the moment, they seem safe. Oh my god, stop. Snake and Eva walked through the aqueduct toward the river. She was moving slowly, and Snake matched her speed. Snake, of course, remained on alert for any sign of danger, but I thought it the best chance we might have to talk. Over the codec, I said to him, "Snake, I need to tell you something."
"What is it?"
"It's Naomi. She's gone. She's not a nomad anymore." Snake didn't say anything. I took the moment of silence to scold myself for my lapse in judgment and caution. I gritted my teeth. Then he asked,
"When did you notice?"
"Right after she and Sunny got back from Dr. Maddenhurst's place."
"Why weren't you watching her?"
"I wasn't wearing my..." The words caught in my throat. Naomi said I looked handsome without my glasses. She'd manipulated me. She used my feelings to trick me. I felt the anguish of it in every cell of my body. My glasses.
"Naomi said it herself. The experiment can't succeed without her."
As soon as I saw she'd left, I had the same thought. As I felt the sting of her betrayal, my mind went straight to the absolute worst scenario. If I assumed she was that evil, then maybe my shame could be lessened if only by a little bit. Dude, she literally poisoned your, best friend? She sucks! Naomi sucks ass. Naomi can eat my ass. That is a threat. That is a threat. Even though I already mostly convinced myself that was the case, I asked, "You think she went back to Liquid?" Snake didn't answer. He must have known I believed it myself. I felt awkward. After working together for a decade, we pretty much knew all there was to know about each other. He changed the subject.
"What about Raiden?"
"Good news on that front. We managed to get our hands on a dialysis machine and set up an ICU on Nomad. Sunny's keeping a constant watch on him and is handling the dialysis and the treatment of his wounds. But the dialysis is probably going to take 48 hours. Until then, Raiden can't move."
"Wait, Otacon."
Snake tensed. I switched over to the solid ice live feed and saw lights up ahead. Snake readied his M4 and moved ahead of Eva and toward the exit. Outside, a boat was silhouetted by a flickering light in the distance. Was it the cruiser with Big Boss's arc? Snake advanced. A lone figure emerged from the ship, stepped down onto the walkway, and took something from his pocket. Snake watched down the sights of his M4. The figure flicked open a lighter, lit the object in his hand, and put it to his mouth. A cigar.
"Liquid,"
Snake said. The man himself, Liquid Ocelot. Snake moved out into the open where he could clearly see the boat. Not the cruiser Big Mama had mentioned, but rather a military patrol boat. On its deck, the main cast had assembled. Liquid's armed private guard, along with Vamp and Naomi. Just as we thought. My predicted worst-case scenario had been dead on, but I was wrong about one thing. My shame and guilt weren't lightened in the slightest. Liquid triumphantly exhaled a mouthful of smoke and said, "Not bad!" With unsteady steps, Eva moved forward and grabbed Snake's shoulder. She knew Ocelot's face well. He was her comrade once. Together, they freed Big Boss from the Patriots and left Zero truly alone. But his behavior, his mannerisms, those didn't belong to the man she once knew. "Where's the pics?" she asked. Liquid replied without bothering to look at her. "That no longer matters." With the last tattered bits of his strength, Eva yelled, "Where is it?
"Where is she?"
Love that man. On the ship's deck, Vamp had turned to face the flickering light across the water. That was when we realized what it was. Fire.
"Eva,"
Snake asked.
"is that your boat?"
She removed her hand from his shoulder. Her legs lost the strength to carry her, and she slumped to the concrete. Keeping his M4 aimed at Liquid, Snake glanced down at Eva, now on her knees with a slowly spreading pool of blood, her face lit by the flickering light of the sinking cruiser's blaze. "You know that one part in Fullmetal Alchemist where Dr. Knox yells at Lanfan for running around in a sewer with an open wound. Yeah. I think he was yelling at Lanfan. Or he yelled at Lane for letting Lanfan run around in the sewer like 5 seconds after she cut off her own arm. Spoilers, by the way, I guess, for like a freaking 20-year-old series. Like, the manga started in like 2000, I think. It's so old. Maybe not. Maybe it's not that old. But it's pretty old. I mean, there was the 2003 anime, so like. Anyway. Snake gritted his teeth. Naomi, she told me everything, Liquid said, his voice calm and composed with no trace of the triumphant boasting he had displayed in the Middle East. And now, thanks to her, I'd finally have him, the one I've sought for so long. Big boss. Naked snake. Big boss. Naked snake. Metal Gear Solid. I'm sorry. Liquid moved his eyes to Naomi. She turned away out of guilt. Whether actual or feigned, I couldn't tell. It's fake. Snake, I just read that. Put down the gun, Liquid said. It's already too late. You almost did it. Half a dozen of Liquid's elite guides and power assist armor, similar to Snake's meeting suit, appeared from below deck. Snake lowered his weapon. Exuberance edged into Liquid's voice. Looks like I win after all, brother. He let out a puff of smoke. This brand was Father's favorite. What do you say? Cat for one last smoke? You think you're big boss now? Liquid blew smoke into Snake's face. Now he was just being childish. Snake coughed. Guilty as charged. He tossed the cigar to the ground. But all that ends today. As Liquid put out the cigar with his boot, Snake raised the M4 and aimed at him. But before he could squeeze the trigger, Liquid had stepped to the side. In one swift movement, he lunged forward and stole the gun out of Snake's hands. He pulled out the M4's magazine and ejected the chambered shell. At the same time, Snake drew his operator, but Liquid just snatched it away. In a flurry of elbows and knees, Snake was sent to the ground. Nice try, brother! But when it comes to CQC, I've got the upper hand. The private guide stepped out of the boat and encircled Eva and the disarmed and powerless Snake. Then Liquid pointed the operator at its owner's face. Snake looked his brother in the eyes. So this is it, he must have thought. It's been 9 years since our hand-to-hand battle on Shadow Moses Island, and he's dogged me ever since. I shot down his ID, threw him from the top of Metal Gear Rex, killed him with Fox Die, but each time he found a way back to life and back in my face. I don't think I'll be so lucky. But Liquid turned the operator aside and threw it into the river. Why won't he kill me? Does he just want to prolong his enjoyment? Or is there some reason he needs me alive? Snake glared at Liquid. Even if you do get a hold of the system, you only have one part of Patriot's AI, the military part. Liquid shrugged. What of it, brother? It's only a matter of time before I have everything. It's only a matter of time now. Is it? This is the Xenoblade voice clip, right? I think so. He lifted Snake by the shoulders and threw him against the wall of the aqueduct. With the wind knocked out of him, Snake slumped against the bricks and struggled to breathe. Liquid leaned his arm on the wall and put his face right in front of his brothers, so close they could smell each other's breath. Sick. Remember GW? Liquid said. The AI you think they lost, it's mine, a part of my army. I yelled at my computer screen. Impossible! My sister's worm destroyed it! Emma gave her life for it! Your worm only managed to cut GW into little pieces. Tiny, functionless, disconnected fragments. Fragments we were able to reconstruct and stow away inside JD's network. Revolver Ocelot's body has served me well. He was, after all, one of the founding patriots. It allowed me to pass every security barrier between me and GW. Now GW is like a ghost inside JD. They used to be separate entities, like brothers, but as bits and pieces of GW were added to its information network, JD could no longer recognize it as an external threat. Liquid pulled Snake from the wall. Once I destroy JD with a nuclear strike, the Patriots network will be mine, and then I'll build my haven, free from all forms of control. I'll cast aside my old identity, and take my own name for the first time.
You're planning to take the place of the Patriots?
The punch landed hard in Snake's stomach. He spit out every last bit of air from his lungs like a boxer who had just taken his finishing blow. But Liquid wasn't done with him yet. Snake, we were created by the Patriots. He sent another punch to the same place. We're not men. We're shadows in the shape of men. I'm in love with the shape of you know, when you try to sing a song and you don't know like 5 of the words. Snake was utterly defenseless, with no strength left within him. Liquid pushed him back. We're freaks who never should have existed! This time the punch came straight at Snake's face. We're a system to stifle the prosperity of future generations! Another punch, but this time somehow Snake was able to stop it, wrapping his hand around his Feather's fist. The Patriots saw fit to create us, and in doing so became our only right on the chair. I don't know French. Liquid drew back his other hand to strike. I won't fuck my fate any longer. Snake narrowly blocked the punch. Snake had each of his hands around Liquid's, and they stood posed like wrestlers, testing each other's strength. I'll kill Zero and Big Boss and become a Patriot myself. Honestly, Big Boss deserves it. F that guy. Yeah, I don't like Big Boss at all. I don't like Big Boss. I hate him, actually. I want to kill him. I want to kill him. For a few tense moments, Liquid resisted Snake. Then suddenly he relaxed his arms and let Snake go. He turned his back to his brother and started walking to the patrol boat. As he walked away, he said, It all began with Zero and Big Boss. Our purpose in life is to fulfill our destinies. And once all is returned to nothing, the world can be reborn. When he reached the side of his ship, he turned to face his brother. Snake, exhausted from the struggle, was helpless to do anything but stare into the eyes hidden behind Liquid's sunglasses. You like my sunglasses? So long as we both live, Liquid said, there is no future. If we're to pass the baton to the next generation, the only choice left to us is death. Between the fatigue of old age, the loss of breath, and the damage inflicted by Liquid's beating, Snake was only half conscious, no longer able to tell which emotions showed in his brother's eyes. That's a mood. You know. Snake autistic? Snake's stupid mustache in Metal Gear Solid 4 genuinely makes him look like my grandfather. And I hate it. I hate it literally looks like my grandfather. I don't like it. I don't like that. Bam said something to Liquid, who nodded. Snake and I both got the feeling that something big was about to happen. The Nosferatu made a signal, and the soldiers surrounding Snake quickly backed onto the boat, their weapons still trained on the wheezing old man. The ship began to distance itself from the concrete walkway, and Liquid hopped aboard. The players have all assembled, Snake. The time has come for you to witness our moment of triumph. Snake could only watch as the boat withdrew to the river. Liquid stood on the deck, his arms crossed, the wind across the water blowing his, that is to say, Ocelot's, long gray hair. Naomi stood beside him. Her eyes, brimming with sadness, settled on Snake. Yeah, sadness. Which are most hated Metal Gear characters. Big Boss and Naomi. Also Solidus. I don't like him. And I mean, Huey. And Emma's mom. Obviously. For obvious reasons. I mean, in this house, we kill pedophiles. Yeah. Then a bright light flooded over everything. Liquid's ship was in the dead center of the river when the beams of light hit it from all directions. American helicopters hovered in the night sky, their floodlights aimed at the patrol boat. In an instant, the pitch dark of the city transformed into the glare of a concert arena. "Hold it right there, Liquid!" Meryl's amplified voice, practically a howl, echoed off the bridges. Her shout came from a line of 5 American patrol boats that blocked the width of the river as they sped toward Liquid. A similar force blocked the other side. U.S. forces poured across both shores of the river and the bridges to either side of Liquid's boat. In an instant, the bridges were covered with APCs, Jeeps, and Humvees with mounted heavy machine guns, so many that the combined weight of troops and equipment might send the beautiful stonework crumbling into the river. "Drop your weapons and stand down, now!" The roar of whirring motors multiplied. Liquid looked up to see a fleet of helicopters bearing down on him of such number that he must have found it a bit ridiculous. And most of them had sharpshooters on deck. They were like a swarm of flies buzzing in circles around Liquid's ship. Liquid was ecstatic, like a struggling artist finally thrust into the limelight. His boat made a loop in the center of the river, while Meryl led her ship to the docks near Snake and Eva. Snake put his arm around Eva's waist. He led her onto the Rat Patrol ship and past Jonathan and Ed. "Jonathan!" who stood guard. As for Akiba, he was slumped at the edge of the deck, taken out of commission by seasickness. Of course. I'm like Johnny. I think I might have said this before, but I'm like Johnny. He's just... "All of you!" Meryl shouted. "Drop your weapons and put your hands up!" Snake kept on telling her to stop, to run, but his voice was drowned out by the cacophony of rotors and engines. Or perhaps she did hear him, but chose to ignore his pleas. She believed her show of force would meet with certain success. She piloted the boat after Liquid, moving in for the arrest. The horde of machines howled from the land and the sea and the air. To the pilots and snipers, Liquid, bathed in the searchlights, must have looked like a helpless man surrounded by 100 wild beasts. Liquid took a deep breath. It was like the pensive moment when a musician pauses before his audience before launching into his most beloved song with no introduction. What? He raised his right arm. His fingers formed an imaginary gun, as if he were a child playing pretend. He pointed its barrel at one of the helicopters. Bang! What the hell was Liquid doing? At first, nobody, not Meryl or any of the American soldiers, knew what the gray-haired old man was trying to accomplish with his childish display. He kept pointing his fingers at the helicopters. Bang, bang, bang. The first to notice something amiss was the pilot of the first helicopter, shot down by Liquid. All of the chopper's instruments simultaneously went black, and the navigation display in his headset winked off. Within moments, he realized the control stick had ceased to have any effect. One after another, the helicopters lost control and were thrown into erratic spirals. The falling vehicles made a sad, absurd dance. The first scream came from that same pilot. "Metal Slave 01 has lost control, we're gonna crash!" I don't know what that was. The SOP's tactical link was flooded with a continuous noise of shrieks, and cries, with new voices coming in waves, filling in for the ones that fell silent. Liquid aimed at a soldier on the bridge. Bang! His target groaned and collapsed to the ground. The Marines next to the fallen man didn't know what had happened. Meryl yelled, "Fire!" The U.S. horses raised their weapons in unison and squeezed their triggers. Click. The metallic cores fanged through the night sky. Scores of weapons were pointed at Liquid's boat, from small arms to light machine guns, to the Humvee mounted large caliber guns, but none with a hammer willing to fulfill the needs of the inhabitant of the chamber. Meryl went pale. What? She stared at the Desert Eagle in her hands. Reflexively, she checked its mechanical safety, even though she already knew it was off. It was. Finally, she realized what was happening. Her patrol boat was slowing down, its engine no longer running. In the distance, an explosion violently blossomed. One of the helicopters had crashed. "The system is mine!" Liquid boomed. His personal guide opened fire from the deck. This time, the attack was with real guns and real bullets. The other helicopters lost their battle against gravity, crashing into the buildings and streets. Amid the thunder of explosions, the helpless soldiers were cut down by an onslaught of lead. The ones who reacted quickly enough to get behind cover never experienced the world falling apart. They suppressed and compressed residual emotions, suddenly given free rein, became a raging storm battering at their nervous systems. Blood streamed from their ears as they vomited relentlessly into their masks. With hands to their heads, the soldiers screamed unintelligibly, their wailing every bit as loud as the gunfire. They convulsed like wind-up toys. Everything crumbled. Consciousness, meaning, the world, the landscape, words, into grains of sand blowing in the wind. Most of the fighters hadn't made it to cover behind their vehicles. They either collapsed on the spot into a twitching mess, threw themselves over the guardrail, and were shot in the back. Liquid pointed 4 fingers straight out and mimicked a Gatling gun with each hand. He sighted with the ships to his left and his right. He aimed at them. Bam. Them. Bam, 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 bam. His arms shook with mock recoil. The ship's engines exploded. Crashing the mobile house into artillery! That's totally irrelevant, but the cannon's gonna explode. Crashing the mobile house into artillery! The searchlights were destroyed by the blasts, but the flaming wreckage lit the river orange, painting a beautiful light on the canvas of the water surface. Next were the vehicles on the bridges and riverbanks. Liquid swept his arms in a 180-degree arc. Bam, 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 bam! And the vehicles launched into a neat, orderly line of explosions. The grenades and ammunition of soldiers caught in the fire ignited, and the earth looked as if it had been napalm bombed. The city burned. Golden embers fell from the sky like snowflakes. Liquid raised his arms and bellowed in triumph. "Do you see this, Zero? We are victorious!" This would only be the first of the flames. These deaths were only the beginning. A bigger fire was coming, and it was coming soon. "These are the guns of the Patriots!" The guns! No, somebody... I think somebody on Tumblr was talking about, like, how buff Meryl is in her wedding dress. And, like, Meryl's arms are the real guns of the Patriots. Like the rest of the soldiers, Ed, Jonathan, and Meryl were fighting off the crushing weight of their emotions and the destruction of their nervous system. They were helpless to fight back, and the 2 large men had taken bullets from Liquid's men and fell to the deck. Meryl called their names. Ed and Jonathan couldn't do much but moan through the pain. At least that meant they were still alive. Amid the crumbling world, Meryl lifted herself up on one knee and managed to find her balance. She withdrew a combat knife from the sheath from a sheath at her hip. The knife didn't have any clever mechanisms. There weren't any ID tags, just a blade, a primitive instrument to cut and slice and take the lives of its victims. Simple and beautiful. True. Meryl held it at the ready and glared at Liquid's boat, drawing ever closer. But still, her mind hung by a thread. The thread snapped. Somebody shouted, "Meryl, get down!" Somewhere in her hazy thoughts, she might have wondered, was that Snake? But she and everything and everyone she knew fell apart. In that state, she couldn't parse the command, let alone follow it. Her consciousness stretched infinitely thin, and waves of headache and nausea, like from an endless fever, pulsed through her body, with every heartbeat and tore her down from within. Then someone tackled her. Gunfire echoed in her ears. It took some time to realize the person covering who had been shot. His face looked remarkably like Johnny Akiba's. You mean Sasaki? Johnny Sasaki? His name's Sasaki, not Akiba's just a nickname. So like Hal Otacon. No, his name is his name is Hal Emmerich. Otacon is a nickname. Yeah, she whispered. You okay? Yeah, I'm fine. Akiba. But why? Akiba sensed something and looked to the port side. Liquid's patrol boat was bearing down straight at the side of the ship. But Meryl's ship was dead in the water. Out of my way! Ocelot yelled. The ship cannon spit fire. Akiba grabbed Meryl and dove to the starboard side. In that instant, the port side of the boat was blown to pieces. The blast flung the two to the opposite side. Jonathan and Ed fell to the river where they floated. Akiba made a quick decision and dove into the water with Meryl in his arms. Just before the explosion, Snake was about to use Naomi's auto-injector to alleviate the system's interference with his nanomachines. But when the shell tore a hole into the side of the ship and onto the deck, he was knocked back, and his only salvation slipped from his hand and onto the deck. Eva seemed to be holding on to a part of the deck, but she was still slumped over in the same spot. But now hardly any life remained in her eyes. Liquid's ship slowly glided past theirs. Liquid stood atop its cannon, his arms crossed. He cast them a glance and said, "Let them have it. We don't need it anymore." Then picked up a large black bundle. Snake and Eva watched helplessly as he threw it into the starboard fire on the Rat Patrol boat. Eva let out a tiny, pathetic scream. Inside the bundle was Big Boss's body. Disconnected from life support, it was likely no longer alive. The corpse rolled to a stop inside the blaze. Its skin began to wither and shrink in the flames. Snake struggled to his feet and took unsteady steps toward the body. The deck was enveloped in smoke. Snake's lungs, already weakened by age and a lifelong cigarette addiction, had no way of coping with the particulate cloud. He coughed ever more violently and nearly blacked out. "So long, Snake!" Liquid drew his pistol and fired at Big Boss's body. The deck was engulfed by another blast of flames. Fully half of the ship was now on fire. I'm sorry, you're just thinking about Fire Emblem Awakening when they set the boats on fire. They literally set a bunch of boats on fire. I mean, it worked, I guess. You know? Like, they famously set a bunch of boats on fire. And Snake's octo camo turned orange to match the blaze. Snake raised his hands to protect his exposed face from the incredible heat. Through the gaps between his fingers, he could see that Big Boss was already halfway gone. I don't know where she found the strength, but Eva jumped into the fire to save the body of Big Boss. But it was hopeless. Snake reached into the flames and pulled her away. For one brief moment, Eva and Liquid met each other's eyes. Then another explosion disintegrated the burning half of the ship. The fireball licked across Eva and Snake. The flames burned through the back of Eva's leather jacket and charred her skin. Snake's left cheek burned off in an instant. Snake screamed in pain, only to be choked by the stench of his own burning flesh. Snake fell to the deck, defeated. And then Snake realized that everyone there was his family. His mother, his father, and himself, their son, all reduced to ashes, while only Liquid remained, the last of the snakes, to throw the world into chaos. It's not your father, though. It's your other brother. You're even worse brother. It's like, Big Boss. If you're saying I play favorites, you're wrong. I hate all my children equally. Earlier that same day, who's Solidus? Who's Solidus? That couldn't be allowed to happen. It wasn't over. Snake shouted, "Otacon!" I snapped to my senses. That sounded like Batman, but okay. I snapped to my senses and drew back from the horrors on the screen. I sent the Mach 2 across the deck on full throttle. I can't talk today. And built as much momentum as I could. It rolled past Snake and Eva, aimed directly at the back of Liquid's boat, and jumped. I engaged the stealth mode in midair, and when the tiny stowaway landed on Liquid's deck, no one noticed. The city was filled with light. Not daylight. Helicopter crash sites blazed like bonfires. Columns of black smoke rose in the gaps between the roof. The roar of noise, cries, curses, gunfire, and explosions had fallen silent. There were more men dead than alive. Dead or alive. I don't know what that was. When the nanomachines threw their bodies and minds into disorder, they were rendered incapable of firing a single bullet in their defense. The soldiers faced down a whirlwind of automatic fire. If you could have looked down at the streets from up high that day, you would have seen their blood over everything. But some yet lived. There were many only on the brink of death. Like the verge of death. Johnny dragged Meryl's body to the shore. He checked her pulse. Nothing. He lifted her chin and checked her airway. He removed his mask, pinched her nose shut, put his mouth over hers, and breathed air into her. I can't believe it! My first kiss! This is so awkward. Like, why? How is this romantic? It's like, yeah, it's very... This is definitely romantic. Like, no, it's not. No, it's not. Out of the corner of his eye, he could see her chest rise. The air was reaching her lungs. He breathed again. No response. I mean, it's just such a weird, like, oh, I can't believe it. My first kiss. Like, what? Dude, that's... Okay, Fiora. Okay, Boomer. Okay, Fiora. Okay, Fiora. Wait. The air was reaching her lungs. He breathed again. No response. Her lips were cold. He nearly lost himself in fear. Meryl, don't give up on me! He cried, partly in case she was still unconscious somewhere inside, in case she would hear it and find her way back to the land of the living, but mostly just to pull himself back together. Despite the pain of the many injuries he received protecting her, Johnny worked the entire upper half of his body, pushing repeatedly into Meryl's chest. Don't die, Meryl! He repeated again and again as he continued the chest compressions. There was no one around who could help. Ed and Jonathan... Jonathan! We know we're inside. I'm just gonna do that for now. Jonathan! I'm sorry, I love you. Wait a minute! Who are you? On the bridge were only the dead and those who, like Meryl, were near death. The only one who could possibly save her was him. Come back, come back! Johnny's hands, one atop the other, pumped against her sternum. Come back, come back, come back, come back! I don't know what that was, but she didn't respond. He stopped and returned to the artificial respiration, putting his mouth over hers. Her eyes opened. Their lips met, not even inches apart. Johnny hurriedly removed his lips from hers, which had already started to regain their fitness. He tried to explain, but stumbled on the words. His cheeks burned. What was Johnny embarrassed about anyway? He did what he had to do to save her life, that was all. But he couldn't lie to himself. As much as he struggled internally, his reaction was plain enough to anyone watching. Very few could have seen him and not understood. That's not all, is it? He seemed to be thinking. That isn't why I cried out to her to come back from the other side. Thank you, Akiba. She pulled him down and put her lips to his. At the end of the kiss, he gently whispered, If it's all right, call me Johnny. Snake and Eva were on the opposite riverbank, not far from the smoldering husk of her cruiser. Its nose had already begun to sink under the water's surface, and most of the fire had died out. The corpses of Eva's men had grown cold. Though their lives were lost, Snake wanted to do something to save their remains, but the swim to the shore had taken the last out of him. There was nothing more he could do. Her men weren't the only bodies left to the river. The surface was littered with them. Some were thrown into the water by explosions on the ships, and some fell accidentally from the bridges, while others jumped of their own accord just to get away from the pain. Scores of corpses floated downstream, but others, like those who had strapped heavy weapons to themselves or who were weighed down by too much body armor, just sank to the bottom of the river. And this was only one fraction of the field of the dead, with countless others on the roads and bridges. Why am I thinking about Xenoblade now? Speaking of which, using Xenoblade collectibles for Metal Gear Arc name info. Arc. Original character. Like, Venomous Lizard. Yellow Cat. Cave Rat. I could have sworn it was a wet rat, but I might have been thinking of what. Shit gecko. Shin gecko. Oh my god. Imagine you're joining Rock Zone and your code name is Shit Gecko. That would suck. Oh my god. Oh my god, that's so funny. Holy shit. Yes, this is my new Metal Gear original character, Shit Gecko. Actually, that's Johnny's good name. Shit Gecko. I'm sorry. Snake was sitting with his back against a guardrail post and Eva cradled in his lap. She opened her eyes in a voice so soft Snake had to lean forward to hear the words. She said, You and your brother are together a monster, a shadow scorched into the world by a light shining upon a monster. Unless the light is put out, the shadow cannot be erased. As long as there is light, there will be shadow. She looked at Snake with unfocused eyes. Her gaze kept drifting and returning, making her seem hollow. To return everything to normal, the light must be extinguished. Her voice was barely a scratching in her throat. Snake put his ear as close to her pale lips as he could. Her eyes closed and a single tear ran down her cheek as if it were her own life leaving her. And when that happens, you will be too. And then she was gone. Snake watched her face for a time. The face of the woman who loved Big Boss, who bore his children, and who rescued him.
When I kill Liquid and end my own life, the last of Eva's children will vanish from the face of the earth,
Snake said to himself more than me.
That's our fate.
Snake heard the sound of a running engine up above. He looked up to see Drebin and Little Gray leaning over a guide railing at the side of the road, each with a can of Nike in hand. Hey, we pride ourselves on service. Let's get you to your friends. If you like this, don't forget to like, comment, and subscribe. I don't know why. Anyway, don't forget to like, comment, and subscribe, and all that stuff. Bye.